We're starting. Call to order the Lake Mills Plan Commission meeting of September 27. We'll proceed with, but before roll call, I'd like to, this is our first time with a new city manager, Drake Daly. So we welcome him and excited to have him here. And with that, let's proceed with roll call.
Mr. Coots?
Here.
Ms. Lazaris?
Here.
Mr. Grady?
Here.
Mrs. Bishop?
Here.
Mr. Mason?
Here.
Mr. Foster? I don't see Mr. Foster online either. And Mr. Holman did previously inform me that he'd be unavailable for this evening's meeting.
Yeah. All right, thank you. The next item number 3, correction and or approval of the meeting minutes of July 26, 2022. Is there a motion regarding the July 26 minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of July 26, 2022.
Mr. Coots will second.
All right, moved by Mrs. Bishop, seconded by Mr. Coos to approve the minutes of July 26. Are there any discussion on that? Okay. In that case, then we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
Ms. Lazaris?
Aye.
Mr. Grady?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Mr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0 with Mr. Grady abstaining.
All right, thank you. Item number 4 is questions and public comment. The public may address the commission at this time regarding items on the agenda unless the item is the subject of a public hearing. If your comments pertain to a public hearing, please hold your comments until the hearing. We do have 5 public hearings this evening. Item number 5, conditional use request by Steve and Julie Saniter for grading, filling, and excavation within 300 feet of the shoreline to construct a patio, retaining wall, and stairs at 308 Lakeshore Drive. Item number 7, conditional use request by Michael and Susan Nesemann for an alternative shoreline vegetative cutting plan at 113 South Ferry Drive. Item number 9, rezoning request by Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated to rezone property owned by farmers and Merchants Bank at the southeast corner of County Road B and Tyranena Park Road from RD Rural Development to PB Planned Business. Item number 11, conditional use request by Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated for a drive-through facility at the southeast corner of County Road B and Tyranena Park Road on property owned by Farmers and Merchants Bank. And item number 13, rezoning request by Ryan Malone to rezone property at the northwest corner of County Road A and Tyranena Park Road from PB Planned Business to PB with PDD Planned Development District Overlay. Public comment may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting. The state's open meeting law discourages action by the commission on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments limited to 3 minutes. State your name and address when starting comments. Also fill out the sign-in sheet at the lectern. For our people online, please follow the Zoom link or the phone number listed in the Plan Commission agenda. If anyone here wants to comment on any aspect of the comprehensive plan work currently underway, this is the time you can comment. All right.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Curler. I lived at 369 West Prospect Street, and I'm one of your city council members. I'm here for 2 reasons tonight. I know you have a very long agenda, so I'll keep it quick. My first reason is simply to say thank you for serving the community on this commission. You make a lot of very important decisions, and you are investing a lot of your personal time to both work on the permits that come before you as well as the comprehensive plan. I know that's a heavy lift, so from me personally, I just want to say thank you for your dedication and commitment to the city. I know some of you, it's not your first time working on a comprehensive plan either, so appreciate your commitment and expertise. Second reason I'm here is just to talk briefly about our new strategic plan that we have at the city, and I am fortunate in being the council vice president in making sure that we are tracking how we're doing on this strategic plan. And one of the most important things that we did at the very beginning was to adopt it and make sure it got distributed to all of you. So I hope that you all got it, had a chance to look at it, and that it will hopefully inform your continued work. The other thing I wanted to highlight is something that's very important to this council, and I'm sure Catherine will echo this, is that we want to improve our communication with our boards and make sure that you are functioning effectively. So if you have ideas as time goes on for how we can best keep the lines of communication open with you, we would, any of us council members would love to hear that, and we've got some of our own ideas and thoughts for how we'll be doing that moving forward. So just thank you again for your service, and keep in touch.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment at this time? All right, in that case, we'll go on with item number 5, public hearing, conditional use request from Steve and Julie Saniter in the single-family residential district R16 with Lakeshore Residential Overlay for grading, filling, and excavation within 300 feet of the shoreline for constructing a patio, retaining wall, and stairs at 308 Lakeshore Drive, identified by 246071311433078. And so the public. Before commencing the public hearing, I'd like to call on our consulting planners to present the request, and then we'll continue from there.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm gonna share my screen for the memo, so let me know if able to see that or not. But so I'm just gonna briefly give a little background on the project. In June 2020, the previous owner had received a conditional use permit for an alternative vegetative cutting plan. A number of conditions were applied to that permit, kind of chiefly, kind of preserving the erosion control measures of the existing root structures, priority tree species being preserved, and then submittal of an understory plan that's approved by staff as part of the project. In the fall of 2020, the current owner reached out to staff to contemplate the construction of a boathouse. Staff at that time gave some time for them to investigate that further prior to submitting understory plans for review from staff. And then at this time, the petitioner has decided not to pursue the boathouse, but has proposed a stairway, retaining wall, as well as a patio, all within the vision and access corridor, which is approximately 24 feet on this site. And then an understory plan was submitted as part of the application as well, and comparable plantings to what was proposed with the initial proposal. Conditional use are included with this plan here. Removal of any plantings within that vision and access corridor is permitted, so it's something to keep note of. This request is for essentially the grading and excavation in order to allow for the retaining wall, patio, and et cetera, on a slope greater than 20% within the shoreline preservation district. There are a number of different conditions that are specified in ordinance that can be applied to this type of conditional use. The ones that are pertinent to this particular application are included in staff recommendations, in addition to some others requested from staff to make sure that the proposed patio, retaining wall, and stairways are outside of the right-of-way. Also that the downslope retaining wall does not provide any sort of, improves upon the existing slope as similar to other conditional use permits that have been approved in this area. And then also to make sure that any work that's done downstream of the ordinary high water mark is approved by the DNR.
All right, very well. Thank you, Mr. Carranza. The public hearing is open. Are the sanitors here, and would you like to comment before we open it to others?
We're here.
Aye.
I guess I don't really have any comment.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. The public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to comment on their request? If so, then please approach the lectern, state your name and address for the record, and also write your name and address.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Kappas. I live at 704 Fremont Street. I'm a neighbor of the Sanitors. I came in and looked at the project that they're planning, and I commend them for planting native plants. I take pride in trying to make a pollinator-friendly garden of my own in my yard. And I care a lot about the environment and our animals, and especially the turtles. And this is a plea, and also I know I researched a little bit at the DNR, has guidelines for helping turtles get in and out of the lake. And as I watch our East Lakeshore Drive developed, everyone's throwing riprap in the lake. And in the Sanitors plan, they also have big boulders that are going to butt to the road at the top. And their lot was vacant for a very long time. And I know there's a lot of turtles that nested in their property before they built their house. And I've seen turtles crossing the road there, and I care a lot about them. And when you place the rocks in the riprap, it's going to deter the turtles from getting back to their nesting sites. And what I'm asking for is that they take some kind of consideration that there's some area there's no riprap so that the turtles have a chance to get in and out of the water, and the hatchlings as well. I've seen turtles this summer right in front of their house crossing the road. So, I mean, as long as there's some kind of access, perhaps they have a chance to survive. So that's my comment for tonight. Thank you.
Aye, thank you. The public hearing is open. Does anyone else wish to comment on this request? Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this conditional use request? Are there any further comments during the time of this public hearing? All right, in that case, we'll close the public hearing and we go on to item number 6, discussion recommendation on conditional use request from Steve and Julie Saniter for grading, filling, and excavation within 300 feet of the shoreline to construct a patio, retaining wall, and stairs at 308 Lakeshore Drive. We have in front of us, Plan Commissioners, the motion 2291, Steve and Julie Saniter, 308 Lakeshore Drive, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel identification number 246071311433078. Conditional use permit for grading, filling, and excavation on a slope greater than 20% within 300 feet of the ordinary high water mark of Rock Lake for the purpose of constructing a patio, retaining wall, and stairs. A motion 2291 does set forth the city's zoning authority under Wisconsin state statutes. The request to by the petitioners, the review by city staff and consultants, tonight's public hearing, and Plan Commission review. The motion 2291 provides for a Plan Commission recommendation to approve the conditional use request subject to recommendations in the planner's memo. And in the memo, you can see the list of recommendations there. Mr. Carranza, did you wish to comment any further on the recommendations that were in your memo?
No, if you have any questions, happy to answer any
Very
details.
All right. And so, Plan Commissioners and staff, are there any comments or questions regarding this request?
I'd just like to comment that area is, I would term it rather overgrown. And what you're planning to do will be a definite improvement in that particular area of the lake.
I had a question for Mead and Hunt, and it's in your recommendations, you talk about how at some point jurisdiction of approval of plans goes to the DNR, and that seems to be for the protection of certain habitats, which I think would include animals and other turtles and other animals that live there. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, basically anything that's below the ordinary high water mark is their jurisdiction, their review. I'm not sure specifically what is part of that review, but I would imagine they have some consideration for it, certainly. But yeah, it would be kind of their purview.
Is there anything further anyone has, question or comment concerning this request?
Just another quick comment, and that is, if Lakeshore Drive gets replaced or repaired or improved, will that affect, will what they plan to do affect that road at all?
So that is still very early from my understanding. So as far as anything proposed within the right-of-way here, that is part of conditions of approval here to make sure that those are approved by the, with the privilege in the street application. I would imagine a condition of that would be, if the road were to realign or any improvements made, that's certainly not at the city's detriment or cost. So.
All right. Any further discussion regarding this request? And you can see the recommendations that are referred to in the planner's memo, which would be part of this motion if the Plan Commission passes it. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding motion 2291?
I'll motion to approve 2291 with staff recommendations.
Second.
Has been moved by Mr. Grady and seconded by Mrs. Bishop to pass motion 2291. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, then we'll proceed with the roll call vote.
Mr. Grady,
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
All right. The next item is item number 7. Conditional use request from Michael and Susan Nesemann in the single-family residential district R14 with Lakeshore Residential Overlay from owners for an alternative shoreline vegetative cutting plan at 113 South Ferry Drive, Lake Mills, identified by parcel number 246-0713-1412-001. All right, are the Neesmans here, and would you like to say something before we commence with public hearing?
We're here, I don't have any comments, but happy.
All right. Well, in that case, then I'll call on staff I'll call on the planners to present the request.
So again, a bit of background here. The petitioner contacted staff early in the process to discuss their plans for restoration along their shoreline. The proposed rehabilitation is approximately 750 square feet, both to the north and south of their existing stairways. They have hired a shoreline restoration consultant that is qualified to perform the work, and the project has received a sharing grant from Jefferson County as part of a DNR program for shoreline restoration, and there's a letter of support with the application from Marissa Ullman. The request is for an alternative vegetative cutting plan to remove plantings outside the vision and access corridor. This specific property has one that's 30 feet wide per ordinance. Their request is about 55 feet along the shoreline. To receive an alternative vegetative cutting plan, Plan Commission must view the plans to make sure that they do not have undue impact to the erosion or destruction to scenic beauty on the shoreline. They provide substantial shielding from the water, from dwellings, accessory structures, and any parking areas. Staff's opinion is that this particular plan does meet those requirements. And then within the conditional use findings of fact, likewise, the potential benefits here do outweigh any risks when accounting for certain conditions of approval, as recommended in the memo. So first being a best practice, erosion control methods be implemented until plantings are able to establish themselves. In particular with seeds and plugs, they can have some difficulty establishing on slopes in this particular case. And then also staff shall conduct an annual review in 12 months and then also again in the 2 years to make sure that these plantings are able to establish themselves in the manner that has been proposed.
All right, thank you. The public hearing is open. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this requested conditional use? Are there any comments regarding this request? Does anyone wish to speak regarding this request? All right, in that case, we'll close the public hearing and we go on with item number 8, discussion recommendation on conditional use request from Michael and Susan Nesemann in the single-family residential district with Lakeshore Overly from owners for an alternative shoreline vegetative cutting plan at 113 South Ferry Drive. All right, Plan Commissioners, you have in front of you motion 2292, Michael and Susan Nesemann, 113 South Ferry Drive, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel number 246071314120001. A conditional use permit for an alternative shoreline vegetation cutting plan and excavation and grading within 300 feet of the ordinary high water mark of Rock Lake. This motion does set forth the city's zoning authority under Wisconsin state statutes, the conditional use request by the petitioners, the review by city staff and consultants, tonight's public hearing and Plan Commission review. Motion 2292 provides for Plan Commission recommendation to approve the conditional use request subject to compliance with applicable state law, administrative code, and local ordinances and activities permitted as a conditional use. And recommendations and conditions provided in the planner's memo. And these would consist of the best practice methods for erosion control and for, as Mr. Carenza mentioned, the annual review of the project area for a period of 2 years. So that is what this motion contains. Does anyone have any comments or questions concerning this motion or the request by the Nesemanns?
I just have a quick comment to thank both families for going through the proper protocol and not taking it on their own selves to clear cut before getting staff approval and city approval. So thank you for doing that. I know it takes a lot of time, but I appreciate it.
Would anyone else have any other comments or questions concerning the Nesemann's request? Would anyone like to make a motion concerning motion 2292, rather?
I'll motion to approve 2292.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Grady and seconded by Dr. Mason to pass motion 2292. Any discussion? All right. In that case, then we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
Mrs. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris,
Aye.
Mr. Greedy.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
The next item number 9, public hearing request for a zoning amendment from Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated to rezone parcel 246071311120003 and contiguous parcels owned by Farmers and Merchants Bank from Rural Development RD to Planned Business PB. For this, I'd like to start and ask the consulting planners to present the request.
Thank you, Ms. Lazaris. This is a series of sites at the corner of County B and County V. This is really the former Moe's Tavern site that was located in the corner, as you can see on the aerial here. While it looks like on the aerial only 2 parcels are located within the city of Lake Mills, the third was recently annexed in. So all 3 properties are in the city. It is the city's standard procedure when they annex properties to bring them in our lowest intensity zoning district, which is our rural development district. And then zoning is applied at a later date, generally in conjunction with some type of development plan. As you know, that there is a conditional use permit request following this item. The petitioners are looking to construct a bank with a drive-through. Our zoning district that best applies to this is the Planned Business District. They've been working on their building site and operation plan approval through the administrative process kind of in conjunction with this. But we do need to get the zoning in order, if you will, for the entire site. Initially, they controlled 2 of the properties that were annexed. They came into control of the 3rd property, a house at the southern edge in recent months, and which is why it's coming forward to you now. All properties are here and proposed to be rezoned to our planned business district. A certified survey map is going to be provided that combines the 3 properties. That is something that we've indicated as a condition of approval. One of the issues that are sitting out there is that under the current comprehensive plan, this was shown as future residential for this area. Again, that plan was adopted in 2006, 2007 area. Things have obviously changed in that time. A development plan came forward for commercial to replace the county commercial that was there. Staff is supportive of that. Development plan that has been provided is in keeping with our codes and ordinances and comprehensive plan. This proposal complies with the comprehensive plan's direction for commercial that is complementary of our surrounding land uses, but is also, just wanted to show the future land use map for this area, showing it all as residential. But because this is located at the juncture of 2 county roads, planned business is an area that is intended to be along areas that have collector roadway access, so they're not going through the middle of neighborhoods. And again, this has frontage on 2 county roads. But the character of this area has been transitioning. You have the vet clinic, which is there and has recently done a large expansion to the east. There are still, of course, some residential in that area, but it has historically been, I'll say, a legacy county commercial area that is looking to be redeveloped in compliance with our codes and ordinances. We, as I said, are recommending approval. It does align with the development trends of the area. It does conform to the goals in Chapter 3 of the land use chapter of the adopted plan. We are recommending approval of this rezoning conditioned upon submittal and approval of the lot combination certified survey map, and which is an administrative process. It won't come before you. It'll be reviewed at a staff level. And then, again, a future land use amendment to plan business for this area.
All right. All right, thank you. All right. The public hearing is open. Is Mr. Bessler here? And do you want to, would you like to make any comment to start?
I could, but Dustin did a great job, so.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. All right. This is the public hearing for this request, of rezoning. Are there any comments concerning this request? Would anyone like to comment concerning this rezoning request? Would anyone like to speak concerning this request? All right, hearing none, then we close the public hearing. We go to item number 10. Discussion recommendation on request for zoning amendment from Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated to rezone parcel 246071311120003 and adjacent parcels owned by Farmers and Merchants Bank from Rural Development RD to planned business. Plan Commissioners, we do have motion 2293 in front of us. Recommendation to City Council for a zoning amendment. Petitioner Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction for a property owner Farmers and Merchant State Bank, 550 West Tyranena Park Road and North 6804 County Road B, Lake Mills. Parcel numbers 246071311120003, 246071311120004, and 018071311130039. This motion does set forth that City Zoning Authority under the Wisconsin State statutes the requested rezoning from RD Rural Development to PB Planned Business review by city staff and consultants. Tonight's public hearing and Plan Commission review. Motion 2292 provides for Plan Commission recommendation to approve the requested rezoning, provided that procedural provisions for the proposed amendment set forth in Chapter 660 zoning regulations have been met, that subject properties have been combined by a certified survey map, that the zoning amendment will not be approved until a future land use map amendment is completed, and that the zoning amendment will not be approved until the site meets the requirements as noted in the planner's memo, which have before been mentioned within this document. So that is the motion in front of us. Are there any questions, comments regarding this requested rezoning? Would anyone like to make a motion concerning motion 2293?
I'll make a motion to approve 2293 pending, and we want to put that part of it, pending the certified survey map
Right.
completion.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Mr. Coots will second.
All right. It's been moved by Dr. Mason and seconded by Mr. Coots to pass motion 2293 and subject to the certified survey map combining the properties among the other qualifications listed in this motion. Any discussion? In that case, then we'll proceed with the roll call vote.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris,
Aye.
Mr. Grady,
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is item 11, and this is associated, and this is a public hearing conditional use request from Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated in the planned business district for a drive-through facility at the corner of County Road V and County Road B at 550 West Tyranena Park Road and 6804 County Road B, Lake Mills, and owned by Farmers and Merchants Bank. Before we open the public hearing, then I'd like to ask from our consulting planners for a review of the request.
Thank you. I put on the screen for people to see the proposed site plan that has been submitted with their building site and operation plan. As you can see, there's a drive-through for the bank, very common, of course. Our zoning code requires all drive-through facilities to receive conditional use approval in case there are any ancillary issues that need to be addressed with queuing or ingress, egress, et cetera. The minimum requirement for our drive-through is that there needs to be 4 queuing spaces per window. There are 2 windows proposed here, or ordering or transaction areas. They certainly do have, as you can see here, sufficient queuing area on site to get people off of the county road in this case, to provide safe access and circulation to the site. We've also included in here some of the renderings for the structure itself. But in a nutshell, really the ask here is a conditional use for the drive-through operations. As you can see, the building has wonderful residential lines, excellent building materials, will certainly complement development in that area. To the east of them, again, is the recently expanded vet clinic. To the south is residential. We've asked them as a part of the building site and operation plan approval process and review process to communicate to the neighbor to the south on any screening issues that they would like, and they've been doing so. The zoning code gives them a lot of latitude on that. Just want to make sure that that has been kind of addressed if you're wondering about the south end of the site next to the nearest residential property. In staff's opinion, it meets our findings for compliance with zoning code, potential impacts to surrounding properties, compliance with long-range plans. We are recommending approval with a series of conditions. Again, approval of the lot combination, CSM, approval of the rezoning of the sites, administrative approval of the building site and operation plan, as we discussed, approval of the site access by Jefferson County, because they are county highways, and then if there's any additional things required by the city engineer, public works, or fire department. Thank you. Answer any questions. I'll put the site plan up.
All right, well, thank you. The public hearing is open. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this conditional use request for the drive-through facility? Are there any comments concerning the drive-through facility request? Does anyone wish to speak to this conditional use request? All right, hearing none, we close the public hearing and we go on to item number 12. Discussion and recommendation on conditional use request from Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction Incorporated in the planned business district for a drive-through facility at the corner of County Road V and County Road B at 550 West Tyranena Park Road and 6804 County Road B, Lake Mills, identified by 246-0713, 1112-003, 246-0713, 1112-004, and 018-010713, 1113, 039, owned by Farmers and Merchants Bank. Plan Commissioners, you have in front of you motion 2294. Petitioner Bud Bessler of Oliver Construction for property owner Farmers and Merchants State Bank, 550 West Tyranena Park Road and North, 6804 County Road B, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Conditional use permit drive-through at Farmers and Merchants State Bank. This motion does set forth the city's zoning authority under Wisconsin state statutes, the conditional use requested by petitioner to allow a drive-through for a bank, review by city staff and consultants, tonight's public hearing, and plan commission review. Motion 2294 provides for a plan commission recommendation to approve the requested conditional use subject to the site. A plan will not be authorized and conditional use permit not be approved until the site plan has building site and operation plan approval. Second, the site plan would meet all requirements of the zoning code as noted in the planner's memo. Third, the property would be consolidated by the certified survey map. Fourth, Jefferson County Highway Department approval for driveway access. Fifth, requirements set forth in the planner's memo. In this motion, the Plan Commission would be confirming the following findings. First, the conditional use of a drive-through in its proposed location is in harmony with the purposes, goals, objectives, policies, and standards of the Lake Mills Comprehensive Plan and any other plan or program adopted by the city. Second, the conditional use does not result in substantial or undue adverse impact on adjacent properties, character of the neighborhood, environmental factors, traffic factors, parking, public improvements, public property or rights of way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, or general welfare. Third, the proposed drive-through conditional use maintains the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the area. 4, the proposed drive-through conditional use will be adequately served by public utilities and facilities. 5th, the potential public benefits of the proposed conditional use outweigh any and all potential adverse impacts. Is there any discussion concerning the requested conditional use for the drive-through or the motion 2294?
Excuse me, Ms. Lazaris, if I may. A3 in this motion should probably include that third parcel identification number. The parcel identification number from the township starting in 018 was unintentionally not included.
Yes, certainly.
It's incredibly redundant. I mean, it's mentioned in the memo and throughout the documents, but I think it's appropriate to add that.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Drescher. That I agree with that. That's it should be added there. Okay. So, if there is anyone who wants to make a motion concerning the passage of this motion 2294, then if you would then include this amendment to list the property number beginning with 018 in A3.
Discussion?
Is there, discussion concerning this motion or the requested drive-through?
What's the role of the county highway department, and how big of a hindrance is that to get their approval? Or isn't it?
It shouldn't be a hindrance. It's just that they've been contemplating a couple separate access locations on County Road B. And the county, again, they are the county's control. So the county really does have to sign off on them, while we, meaning Public Works or Engineering and Planning, can make recommendations on those locations. We do have requirements for maximum width, the right-of-way line, et cetera, that we comply with. Ultimately, access needs to be approved by the county.
Okay. So it's not a hassle.
Are there other discussion, questions? Would anyone care to make a motion concerning motion 2294, amending it to include the town parcel number in A3?
a motion to amend 2294, is that right? To include the third parcel.
There is a,
Second.
oh, sorry. Mrs. Bishop, do you?
I don't know if I cut off your amendment there. But I was seconding that motion.
Yeah, did you say you wanted to second the motion to amend?
Yes, that's correct.
Aye. 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 So we start with a motion to amend. A motion to amend by Mr. Grady, seconded by Mrs. Bishop to amend motion 2294 under A3 to include the parcel, the town parcel number beginning with 018. Aye. And we'll take a roll call vote on this amendment.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris,
Aye.
Mr. Grady,
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Aye, thank you. And then on the amended motion, 2294, is there a motion on the amended motion?
Motion, a move to approve 2294, the amended version.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Grady and seconded by Mrs. Bishop to pass the amended motion 2294. Any further discussion?
That includes the recommendations, I take it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, in that case, we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
Ms. Lazaris,
Aye.
Mr. Grady,
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Coots.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, all right, thank you. The next item is item number 13, public hearing request for zoning amendment by Ryan Malone for the purpose of changing zoning from planned business to planned business with PDD, Planned Development District Overlay, for a property located at W7411 Cnty Hwy V, parcel number 246071312140002. We'll start with a staff overview of the request.
Thank you, Ms. Lazaris. As you can see in the area, this is at the corner of County V and County A, to the east of the RV site. This is about a 2.3 acre parcel. This was recently annexed into the community, and that was rezoned a couple of meetings ago from rural development to our planned business district. The planned business district at that time allowed by right commercial indoor lodging, and they were making an application to that effect. In reviewing their application and the proposed site plan and building elevations, it was noted that there were a couple areas that did not comply with the bulk requirements, specifically height, as it relates to the planned business district. The planned business district has a maximum height for a structure of 35 feet. This development is proposing 54 feet. The only mechanism short of a variance is to go the planned development district route, which allows some latitude in the design details and bulk regulations, so long as it meets with the intent of the district, provides a project that has I'll say a comprehensive look at all issues on and off site related to it that benefit the community. This is a 4-story building that's being proposed, but our process again for this type of exception would be the planned development district as proposed. I'm sure the petitioner would like to walk through their project and highlight some of the details, and then we can talk about some of the staff review related to that.
All right. Mr. Malone, would you like to comment on this project?
So I'm Ryan Malone. I'm the developer for the plan hotel. It's going to be a Holiday Inn Express. On our drawings, I know it says suites, but it's one way to get the sign smaller. We're just being a Holiday Inn Express. 90 rooms. After meeting with the city, they said the area actually needed some meeting space for local businesses, for guests. So we added on a meeting area on the main floor, which took away, I think, 3 rooms, but it's your typical Holiday Inn Express. It's a name, it's well-known, and I know there's some changes we have to make, but we're here. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anyone, I think if we have questions, maybe we'll call on you after the public hearing. All right, thank you, Mr. Malone.
It just doesn't fit real well.
Right. We are in public hearing. It's getting more and more vacated out in front of me. But are there any comments, any further comments related to this rezoning request to Planned Development District? Are there any further comments for this request? Does anyone else wish to speak before we close the public hearing? All right, the public hearing is closed. We go on to item number 14, discussion and recommendation on request for zoning amendment by Ryan Malone for changing the zoning from planned business to planned business with PDD, Planned Development District Overlay, for a property at West 7411 Cnty Hwy V, Lake Mills, parcel number 246-0713-1214-002.
I have a question, and I just when this was raised, I think when it moved from rural development to planned business, a woman came in and had a issue with the traffic going over the bridge down into Lake Mills, and concern about that. And I'm guessing that's what some of the sidewalk is hoping to resolve. I also saw that there's only one entrance and exit as well, right? And it's moved away from the stop sign into toward Town on V. Is that correct?
That is, if I can just take a moment, I want to reiterate that the petitioner has met at length with staff on development review long before it was submitted for building site and operation plan. Obviously, it's coming to you because of the planned development district request because of the height. They did provide a very complete submittal that includes all the grading, stormwater management, et cetera. We distributed the review memo from Strand Associates, the city's consulting engineer on this project. We apologize. It was intended that would be put on the website with all the meeting materials. I'm sure it'll be added shortly after this meeting, but we wanted to make sure you had that. We heard loud and clear from Ms. Bishop, among others, about traffic issues on this at this intersection. We know that's a challenging intersection. We highlight in our memo, Strand's memo specifically talks about the issue with access and County Road V, and we've been in communication with the Jefferson County Highway Department on this as well. First, yes, there is only one access point because the topography is such that an access to County A is, I will say, impossible. So the access that's being shown here is as far west as it can be on this property. In a perfect world, we'd move it further west even, but again, there's another private property there. One of the things that we're asking for on that ingress egress is to have to widen the ingress egress so there are 2 exiting lanes, one for dedicated left turn, one for dedicated right turn, and then one dedicated in. I think we're less concerned about in, but you could get some queuing of someone waiting to if someone's deciding to make a left turn out of the site. The other kind of larger issue that has been touched on in our memo, the Mead Hunt Planner memo and Strand's engineering memo, is the issue of adding sidewalks along County V to connect to the intersection, and there are sidewalks on the southern side of County V. But more importantly is the need for certain improvements in County V itself to address potential queuing, stacking issues at that intersection. We know that AM, PM peak, there's considerable queuing because that is a two-way stop. So it's free flow movement on County A, north and south, but east-west on V has just a stop control condition. There does get to be considerable queuing in both directions in the AM and PM peak. And there is, from a staff's perspective, the need to make certain improvements into County V that allows for a turn lane into the site to get people out of the mainline traffic and to allow the mainline traffic to continue to move as it should. There's going to need to be some design details associated with that. I know that Dwayne Vandermoos, the Assistant Public Works Director, is here if there's questions on that. There has been lengthy conversation at the staff level about this issue, and again with the county on this issue. The intention is certainly not to surprise the petitioner with this, but this is certainly a considerable component. That is not to undermine all of the things that have been done well with this site. This is just a considerable concern from a staff perspective. Our memo does reference this, does reference Jefferson County and the city engineers' recommendations on this. There are design details that I think should come back at a minimum to a staff level to be approved, but likely to the Plan Commission and to the council to ensure satisfaction with them. With that, we can entertain some questions related to that, but it is certainly a foremost issue that we are mindful of.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have questions concerning this request?
Yeah, Dustin. Sorry, Dustin. So number one in the memo where it says roadway improvements as required by Jefferson County Highway and City Public Works staff are implemented, and then it lists A and B. Are those are the specific improvements that have been requested by Jefferson County and the city staff?
Sorry, I'm just getting to that so everybody can see that. That is exactly what we were talking about, where some of them are off-site improvements, right? Their access, their driveway, widening and dedicated turn lanes, but the other is, yes, specifically physical improvements in County V that ensure safe ingress, egress to the site from off-site to on-site and to not impact the mainline traffic, which would be anybody going through the intersection, if you will. Most of the day, not going to be an issue, but AM, PM peak is going to be a considerable issue because there is considerable queuing at those stop signs in both directions at this time, which does back up in front of this site. So we would anticipate that people trying to get off of, to leave the hotel site would be encountering queuing and could be making, I'll say, aggressive decisions to get out of the site. And in the PM, we could have the reverse where people are making aggressive decisions to get into the site. And we don't want to see queuing or conflicts at that ingress-egress point. Perfect world, we would have more access points. Unfortunately, we don't have that, and we feel absent of these types of improvements, we could have a considerable problem out there. And I'm sure Mr. Vandermoos could provide some more detail if necessary.
So the conditional use for the property is dependent on getting those specific improvements made to Highway V?
I'm sorry, the Plan Development District, yes, that is our recommendation, that what has been outlined in Strand's memo related to this, which I've highlighted here, related to sheets C4 here, is a series of bullets related to pedestrian movements and then the off-site improvements. There's certainly, I'll say, a hurdle that can be overcome, right? There just needs a certain level of design consideration put into it to address these issues. I can leave that up if people were reading that. There are some other minor, I'll say what I would consider minor issues to be addressed from our memo related to some building materials, some interior landscaping issues. But by and large, really the petitioner has worked hard to diligently comply with our zoning code. It is a nice looking building. The site does function well. Stormwater, as I said, is underground, and that is being reviewed by Strand Associates. Refuge, pedestrian, there's some pedestrian connectivity we would like out to County through the site to make it clear when people are trying to come walk on and off the site. But, you know, I'll say that's really low-hanging fruit in relation to this off-site improvement.
So it's impossible to have an exit on Mulberry Street?
I would defer to the engineer in the room, but I would say yes, the grades are so considerable to get out to County A that I would view it as impossible.
Yeah.
And then you have the proximity between a bridge. You can't see cars coming or going over County A, and then you're so close to the intersection. Even if the grades were more amenable, I would be very surprised if the county and or the state would allow for an access onto that road.
Okay. I just want to be clear on that.
Yes, but this does require county approval to get that access. They're not proposing it because I feel it's infeasible to get out there.
Oh, Mrs. Bishop.
I have a couple of comments and concerns. So as with any development agreement, or not agreement, but plan, there are a lot of moving pieces, simultaneous. So my concern here is addressing exactly what is in front of the Plan Commission tonight for decision. My view of what is in front of us for decision is purely the zoning amendment change from Plan Business to adding the PDD overlay. And that's what our memo is for our motion. I have a couple of issues with that. The petitioner, I don't see any zoning amendment request from them in these documents. The documents that have been provided are two that are most applicable: the application for administrative design review and approval, and the application for the PDD approval, which is not in itself the zoning change. So do we have a zoning amendment request from the petitioner?
Yes, we have signed applications for that. It has been the city's procedure in the past that the application for plan development district has been a zoning change request.
That's not what the code says. The code says that the process for a zoning amendment and for a general development plan are identical to have them approved, but it doesn't say they're the same thing.
Currently E360 for.
I'm in section 66206D sub 3B.
Yeah, I searched it right now. For some reason, it's showing up as just code on my computer. On my cell phone. I am familiar with the code.
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Misty. I am familiar with the code section that you're referencing. When I searched it on my computer just now, it's only coming up as code, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
In addition to that, the two documents we have from the petitioner say that the requested zoning change would be to a B1, which is actually downtown district. The petitioner's documents never actually request for a PDD overlay. So my question then becomes, do we only look at what the petitioner asks for in the documents that we do have, or do we rely on Mead and Hunt's assertion as to what the petitioner was asking for?
likely was.
Just an error.
Just to seek clarification, Mr. Malone, in your application, you have present underlying zoning as PB with a proposed underlying zoning of B1. Was that an error on your part, and you are requesting that the underlying remain PB?
So I'm hearing from Mr. Malone, he is okay with requesting the PB, Plan Business Dash PDD-Overlay. Okay, so on that issue, since the petitioner said that in this meeting, I'm okay moving forward on the motion just for the PDD-Overlay. To the extent we're considering a GDP or a PIP or anything else, I don't know that all of those requirements have been met. In fact, some of them have not been, so I would propose waiting on those recommendations at this level.
It's certainly understandable there may be some items that have not fulfilled kind of your threshold, the commission's threshold for an action item.
Well, those are the ordinances. Those are ordinance requirements, not just the Plan Commission's requirements.
I guess, Ms. Bishop, when we were reviewing the submittal package, that we felt the submittal package had met the threshold for getting onto an agenda. That does not mean it meets the threshold for an approval or a specific action by this body. But in reviewing what's required to be submitted for a general development plan review,
Is there a developer's agreement?
there's usually a developer's agreement if there are public improvements.
It's required under ordinance with regard to PDD overlay, and no, there isn't at this point.
I mean, without going down the list, that's the one thing that stuck out to me as missing per the ordinance requirements and threshold. Yeah, threshold objectives.
As I read that, the city may require that. And again, the items, as I read it, that were required to be submitted for review of a general development plan.
660-220 F sub 2. The developer shall enter into a developer's agreement with the city to comply with all applicable laws and regulations, including conditions and restrictions regarding the development, construction of facilities, infrastructure, et cetera. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing the end. Again, that's just one of the requirements for approval under the PDD, which is different than the zoning amendment change to a PDD overlay.
So I feel like we have a chicken or egg situation here. An agreement can't be drafted until it knows what the agreement is going to be.
I don't see a chicken and egg problem. I see, well, yes, it may be in some of this thought process, there's conflation of issues. What I see that has to happen first is the Plan Commission would receive a zoning amendment change request from the petitioner, which has not been provided in the documents we have tonight, although it has been noticed. And that's what the petitioner said he would want to do, use the PDD-Overlay and have that amendment change. After you have that amendment change, then you would look at the ordinance and apply all of the threshold criteria to then approve or submit to the Plan Commission for approval a general development plan or a PIP, or you could do both.
Which is what we've brought forward in relation to a general development plan.
That's not what the motion is for, and that's not what was noticed.
If I may, if there is a discomfort of the commission, I'm sensing that there is, and there certainly is no need to act tonight on what you're referencing, and we certainly can bring back more information and material to the commission for a completion, as is noted by Ms. Bishop, for a more complete approval of the plan than is currently before you tonight. So we certainly can, the commission can certainly not act on this item tonight, and we can bring it back more with more materials based on the feedback that we're receiving from the commission. That is certainly a perfectly viable option for the commission to take.
Thank you, Mr. Daly, and I'm okay with that. Moving forward on the motion for the PDD-Overlay just to approve the zoning change, again, trying to be very clear as to what this Plan Commission is considering and approving, even with the absence of the written zoning amendment request, and I can extrapolate from Mead and Hunt's memo some of the frustrations the petitioner might be encountering, and that would be why they're putting forward that request for the zoning amendment change. Unless, Mr. Drescher, there's a legal reason not to move forward on the zoning amendment change without a written request.
I'm not sure that there's a reason to move forward. Well, I'm not sure that there's not a reason to move forward with the PDD-Overlay unless the Plan Commission is not comfortable with making that recommendation at this time based on the deficiencies in the application or the deficiencies in the general development plan or the lack of a PIP at this point, if that's what you're citing. I think that's within the discretion of the Plan Commission. But then the flip side is, I think at this point, the application is clear enough and everybody's pointing to the same direction that a PDD-Overlay is desired, that it has been requested, and I'm not sure that you shouldn't make that recommendation at this point. I know that's a lot of waffle language, but I think that it's certainly reasonable to put a pause on it and table this item to require the complete application and strict adherence to the ordinances. Or if you deem you have sufficient information and you're willing to move forward in reliance on what has been submitted and what has been provided at this point to do the zoning change, and that probably is appropriate at this point as well. I don't think you damage anything by taking that step at this time.
And technically, to follow up on that, I think in this other section of the code, initiation of requests for amendment, zoning regulations, the procedures include a request by either an application by a member of the public, like the petitioner, or recommendation by city staff. So on that point as well, I'm comfortable moving forward without a written petition for the zoning amendment itself.
Now, the other consideration is whether or not this grants any abilities that are not contemplated at this point based on it being passed without the GDP or PIP in place, or at least not to your satisfaction. So perhaps we've held the hearing at this point tonight. If you do table it and we have a chance to regroup here and address the deficiencies that are there and bring forward a more complete application at next month, that may be appropriate.
I appreciate that point, Mr. Drescher, and I would tend to agree,
That's-
excuse me.
That's fine.
I think the way I would see it is the application of the PDD overlay in itself has certain restrictions, and the petitioner's plan, as outlined in the GDP per Mead and Hunt's memo and some of the petitioner documents, already doesn't meet those PDD requirements. And so I don't know that anything would necessarily be granted until the GDP or a PIP is granted, just by the amendment change.
I agree with that. I do.
Or in the alternative, I don't think this would happen, but the petitioner would change his plans to completely fit within the PDD and wouldn't require any further changes, but in that case, we have no reason for further review. But I think with what the petitioner wants to do, it's going to have that further review anyway.
Is there further information we should consider at this time?
We have nothing else to bring forward.
Mrs. Bishop, would you like to make a motion concerning this request?
So, sure, I mean, as I've been saying, I don't mind moving forward just on the PDD overlay. So I would move to approve motion 22-9-5 for the Malone zoning amendment from planned business to planned business with a planned development district overlay.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bishop and seconded by Mr. Grady to pass motion 2295. Is there further discussion?
Can I hear the motion again?
Yes, sorry. So I was moving to approve, let me pull it up again. Moving to approve motion 22-9-5 for petitioner Ryan Malone, which would be changing the zoning from planned business to planned business with a planned development district overlay. And that's the extent of the motion.
The prepared motion, though, also mentions the planner's memo and meeting the municipal code. It's not just that single approval. So are we voting on the motion as presented with A, B, and C, or are we only voting on A?
I would assume because under the way it's written, under B, the procedural provisions set forth in Chapter 660 have been met. So I think that would be an important part of this motion, and that requirements as noted in the planner's memo, which also bring forward what we have received from Strand and Associates for its requirements as well.
I hear your question. I don't have an answer. Mr. Drescher, should we strike reference in the written motion to the Plan Commissioner's memo and other requirements? Should we rely on my oral motion as stated?
You can certainly make an oral motion that is just PB to PB with PDD overlay. I'm not comfortable with that at this point. I think a better activity right now for this board is probably to table this item and address it at a meeting upcoming.
I'll withdraw my motion.
All right. The motion has been withdrawn. Is there any other motion concerning this request?
I would move to table this item until the next Plan Commission meeting for further consideration.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bishop and seconded by Dr. Mason to table motion 2295 until our next meeting. Any further discussion?
So just my discussion point would be to direct city staff to either meet all of the threshold requirements of the amendment change and then the GDP, or to provide us with two separate actions so we can split those up if we have to. I think that's probably the better route based on this discussion, but that's what I'd want to see happen for the next meeting.
Understood, and we will be back next month with the appropriate materials.
All right, we do have with the motion and second on the table. Is there further discussion concerning tabling this item? All right. In that case, then we'll proceed with roll call vote.
Mr. Grady?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Mr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Everyone, that completes our public hearings for this evening. And our next agenda item is our comprehensive plan update. And for that, I suggest a recess until 7:30. So I'm calling a recess till 7:30.
So this is like the same conversation that we would have had for the uses property, why that hasn't progressed and why we would have a hearing with regard to that.
All right, we continue our Plan Commission meeting of September 27th after that break. And so we go on with item number 15, discussion on comprehensive plan update, and we call on our consulting planners for that.
Give me a brief moment before I can share my screen and bring up our presentation here.
While Brian's doing that, it's been a little bit since we've met to talk about this. Unfortunately, we had to cancel a meeting last month, so threw us a little bit off on continuity. And so we are certainly not walking through all this presentation because you've seen much of it before. We're still talking about generally the land use chapter, but there have been certain things that have occurred since last we met relating to some of the public involvement outreach with some of the stakeholder groups. But we do want to talk a little bit about the schedule to begin with. So the schedule has slid a little bit. As you recall, we lost a meeting early in the year because of weather. We lost a meeting, I'll say, because there was just a lot of general regular business that had to be conducted. And then again, we lost last month. So one of the things that we do need to kind of evaluate is, should there be a special meeting this in October to just talk about comprehensive planning items? I know that special meetings aren't always desired, but we've had a lot of general business. Tonight, a great example of that, the regular business before you, this kind of gets pushed to the back burner, and then getting something accomplished. And the continuity of keeping things moving and fresh in your minds and such gets lost a little bit there. So it is something to think about, to maybe try to get a little bit back on the track schedule-wise. Obviously, the schedule is kind of at your direction, but we do want to keep it moving forward, of course. So tonight we're going to talk again about land use to try to button that up a bit. That doesn't mean we can't come back and revisit it, some specific issues later, but we are still trying to get through kind of the red line document. And then we do need to move into utilities and community facilities, and obviously subsequent chapters from there. Thoughts or comments on schedule issues?
Typically, how do you have to make a motion for a special meeting, or is it something that we can?
No, generally the chair can request a special meeting. Again, we can look at dates and such and circulate that. I guess I want to get an understanding of your appetite to have a special meeting. A 2-hour meeting separate from a regular plan commission meeting to focus on comprehensive plan items.
Well, all right. In that case, plan commissioners, would you have an interest in having a special 2-hour meeting to focus only on the comprehensive plan?
I would greatly like that. When we have 90 minutes or 2 hours of regular business, I don't want to talk the comprehensive plan afterwards. And also to better prepare for that meeting, if I had a meeting where I could dedicate time and get my thoughts on the comprehensive plan ready and know that that's what we were going to do that day, rather than several other business items, I think that would be a much better use of time and be able to come into it better prepared.
Do we have anything that you're looking at for next month?
Obviously, we have the carryover of the Malone Holiday Inn request. I think there will be a rezoning. A rezoning request has been made. A decision has not been made if it is ready to be published and go forward. There's certainly something in the, if it's, the week of the 11th or 10th, I believe that's a Public Works Board week. So there certainly is a possibility to have something on the 10th or the 11th. That's a Monday or a Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday is the 10th and Tuesday is the 11th.
I would be on Zoom for any day the week of the 10th.
Okay. And again, I chose that just because it's a couple weeks before a regular meeting. So if you wanted to do something, week of the 17th, I would be a little challenged, but Brian is certainly available.
Say the 10th is out.
I could do the week of the 10th. I will just not be in town, so I would have to be on Zoom. That's all. And if we do it like this and not a workshop, then Zoom is fine. I know if it's a workshop where everybody's sitting up front, that's difficult to be telephonic. So it just depends on the format that we would want.
Yeah, for a study session, I prefer to sit in a circle on the floor as well, so.
I would like to think that we could work with Dave on AV to get something set up where, again, we're presenting on a screen. Not everybody might not be on video, but at least it could be as close to you being in the room as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a
You have to be behind the microphone in order to get your voice out. So she can, talk to you, but you can't talk to her unless you're behind the microphone.
Oh, I see.
In the center there, she's not going to hear you.
We don't have a microphone that could be at a table or something.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We've done like actual telephonic ones before. Acoustics aren't great, but I'll try to accommodate whatever I can with everybody else.
With that, is the 10th, the 11th, or the 13th preferred?
10th is Tuesday.
10th is Monday, I'm sorry.
Monday.
Monday the 10th, Tuesday the 11th.
Up at the 11th.
Tuesday 11th?
Tuesday the 11th. Now,
I'm sorry.
Isn't that Public Works Board on
Public
Tuesday?
Works Board is here, so that would probably not work well. Monday the 10th.
And Dustin, I don't have the calendar in front of me for the other dates that you're referencing. So anything we talk about today, I will have to verify because there are other meetings, school board, others that do schedule that room.
Okay, so maybe we need to circulate something to see what's available and go from there, if that's okay.
Yeah, wait, that would be fine. We'll wait and then present, send us an email or some such thing, and we'll find at the time.
Okay.
All right. Is there any discussion that you have some things that really you're presenting findings, you're presenting back what happened. I think that's just information. It's not discussing anything. It's just you're presenting the part. So that part, I think we could spend about 15 minutes yet and listen to what you have, like the focus group summaries, and I think that sounds like that would be it. Why don't you present the focus group summaries, and then we'll continue our discussion at our special meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, with that, I guess let's jump in. Just a reminder, we do have public comment form available still, so that's available for comment at all times. And then we did hold the final focus group meetings on September 7th, right over there. As you said, kind of sitting around a table and talking about things with an aerial, et cetera. We did in the memo with the agenda provide you an updated summary of the focus groups. That top item, September 7th, I won't bring it up to read, but ultimately there's a summary there of kind of the findings.
Can we just take a quick step back? I just want to remind everybody that follow-up to the initial focus groups, Mr. Foster and others had asked, kind of cast a wider net on entities to meet with, to bring in. As you know, it was a little bit challenged. There's a lot of busy people to try to get scheduled, so it took a little while to find dates. Summertime is always a challenge, but again, thankfully, city staff were able to facilitate getting people to meet with us, take time out of their schedules, and so not everybody that was listed was able to attend, but certainly were invited, and then meetings were held on the 7th.
That's right. So just to go over some kind of key takeaways, there's fairly similar to what we've heard otherwise, specifically from other business groups, but business really value their relationship with the city, and it's truly very important for their business as well as for informing the city of their business. So increased communication is definitely a request and something that they expressed need for. They didn't feel like a public forum, like a public meeting like this, necessarily was always the best location to just chat with, whether it be city staff or the elected officials or appointed officials of the city about the happenings of the city. So opportunities for more one-on-one style communication or informal conversation at whether it be a community event or otherwise was definitely desired.
Can I just add to that? We've heard that consistently, that the business community would love for the city staff, the appointed officials, the elected officials to be, I think, a little more prominent at events. So they have, I say, a less formal opportunity to meet and talk with people, combined with better understanding of who their city staff is and who their elected officials are. Is, again, busy people don't always get a chance to be one-on-one, but they are attending community events, and I think just we've heard having a booth, having a tent at some of these events would be really ideal to disseminate information or to have some city staff people available.
And that kind of leads into the next item, which is really finding an opportunity for the city to help businesses find resources or point them in the direction of the resources that are available out there. And so I think knowing who the point of contact for various items might be is something that's also desired and something that was brought up. And then just general opportunities for surveys that are more topic specific. I know we did have the survey conducted for the comprehensive plan, and it was intended to be somewhat general to touch on the kind of items that are in the comprehensive plan, but not necessarily specific to a business or a specific area of town's business makeup. So I think specific surveys, more opportunity for that kind of input was definitely also something that came up again.
Yep. So think micro surveys kind of on a regular basis that they know are coming from the city, asking residents, business owners, et cetera, about issues, things that the city are grappling with, priorities, and the like, to gain feedback, rather than one long survey every so often, constantly reaching out to them. Just talk about the strategic plan at the beginning of the meeting. Maybe there are issues related to that you need feedback from stakeholders or businesses on, et cetera. So again, smaller, more direct, focused opportunities.
So those were the kind of main takeaways from those meetings, the stuff that, parallel other conversation we had with other groups as well. I know that's sort of our stopping point for today in terms of this content, but if you have any other questions or comments or anything, I'd be happy to kind of address those.
I'm going to reintroduce, after this segment, I'd like to reintroduce where we were when we left off, so then we can kind of remind everybody a little bit of homework.
So let's see, we're in the land use section, right? So
it is, and if you flip down to generally about page 19.
Let's see if I can get it this way.
Not that you shouldn't revisit the whole chapter again. At this point, we were walking through the red line as it relates to specific land use categories, and there is discussion of how those categories are intended to apply to development in the community, and then policies and programs related to them. So we've obviously done a lot of redlining related to this, but it talks about the utilizing design guidelines or the code. Remember, when the last comprehensive plan was done, it made a lot of recommendations to code changes that were necessary to implement the expected character for the community when it came to multifamily development, downtown business development, general commercial projects or industrial projects. So you're seeing a fair amount of that. Those are the things that were brought up at that time and were integrated into the code that was, we rewrote a 40-year-old code a few years back, and that's where a lot of those recommendations came from, was what the public was telling us at that time related to their expectations for the community. And then, again, I encourage you to go back and kind of when you're looking at this side by side of that, look at what came out of the community survey and what the stakeholder groups or shareholders were telling us about their expectations for what makes Lake Mills Lake Mills, and ensuring that the character and the specialness of Lake Mills is retained as new development happens. So we kind of left off with the downtown mixed use area. There is in the zoning code very specific design guidelines to the downtown area, because it is a turn of the century downtown, to ensure that that historic character is maintained. That is certainly different than the requirements out at our other commercial areas. If the area around Walgreens, right? The Walgreens really maintains that desired feel, sense of arrival, but again, I remind you to kind of look at what the public has been telling us about the character and what's important to them about the community as you look at policies and programs with this.
Mr. Wolf, you're pausing. Can I ask
I was
a
waiting to see
question?
if there's any questions or
I have
any...
a question, a burning question. Can we talk about briefly the disconnect that I see between what is in our current comprehensive plan and the discussions we've had this year about, you know, wanting mixed neighborhoods, having a corner store in a neighborhood, those types of things, versus what I see happening even in the last year with developments like Summers Ridge, for instance. How do we take these conversations in the comprehensive plan? I know you talked about ordinance changes, but I don't necessarily seeing it be applied. How do we take that disconnect and actually apply it to a development on the ground in this city?
Okay, so Summer Ridge is a great example of land that had been zoned for our R312 district, our multifamily district. Previously,
or even there's the one that was just approved, south of Drumlin Crossing.
Oh,
right?
so
Like
that's
that
Northern
one
Oak.
doesn't, you
Yes.
know, so by way of another example.
Yes.
Right.
So that's a great example of, I can ask Brian to kind of zoom in on that area south of the Drumlin Trail. Under the previous plan and the current plan, it's kind of shown as a, I was just gonna have you look at the land use map, I'm sorry. An area that was for planned neighborhood, again, variety of development types. One of the challenges we have with that is who's first to develop, what it is, and then how do we get the other elements we're looking for related to that. Yes, that is the challenge, right? So in this area, you'll see highlighted there in blue is, again, there was a land use amendment when there was a development plan that came forward in that area for a possible manufacturer, and the school district was communicating with them about possibly selling them the property. That didn't come to fruition. So the school district still owns the land down there. And then you have St. Paul's Lutheran Church and School are down there, right? So you have I'll say, an institutional core to a neighborhood, right? A draw to a neighborhood. The new Northern Oak development is a 23-unit multifamily development that starts to kind of start infilling the residential component that has been planned in that area. You can see highlighted in the yellow is the Tyranena Point single-family project. Their second phase is actually going straight east from there over to 89, which would then bring more residential. The question is kind of after that, what would happen, right? Historically, there was a commercial area there. There used to be an old mobile gas station there. I'm not saying that's specifically the commercial you're looking for, but in this area, yes, you probably would be looking at some extension of commercial along 89 near the Drumlin Trail, and you're seeing that with the Topol's redevelopment. There are other commercial sites there. So saying that you're necessarily going to have commercial development in the middle of the area where the schools are may not necessarily be practical, but having a variety of housing types, having some apartments with some single-family homes, Maybe a project that would come down the road would be a duplex, right? Again, variety of housing types, or townhouse, which is kind of implies owner occupied, side by side, or single family attached townhouse, right? Different housing products for people at different points in their lives, right? That's the goal. The hard decision making is when somebody comes in to do something, having them look at, well, how would the rest of the area develop? It is very common for communities to require area development plans when a developer comes in that looks at the land around them and says, is this a practical relationship of land uses, road networks, densities, in relation to what's there, and again, what could be planned. We always have a challenge of we never as a community make property owners develop their property. So there's obviously farmers down there. They may continue to farm for a fair amount of time, or they may sell to a developer tomorrow, right? That's always a challenge on timing. So we would have to make some hard decisions when something comes in to say, is this meeting with the intent of what we're looking for in this area? Hypothetically, if you just had the schools and everything coming in was single family, that's not necessarily bad, but is it in keeping with what we're trying to achieve as a community? Historically, Lake Mills has developed with a variety of residential housing types and densities inside of an area. Think as you walk out from Commons Park, 5 blocks in any direction, you will encounter large single-family homes, small single-family homes, duplexes, upper and lower or side by side. There are projects that are multifamily or fourplexes. Again, and then you have some commercial in there, some small-scale commercial or community-serving commercial. So that has been our historic development pattern here.
Well, and I agree with you that it has been. We're just not seeing that replicated in when I brought up Summers Ridge or the Brewster Drive apartments. And then we kind of had that conversation at the last meeting with the second Mangan plot with, does it get changed into multifamily or does it stay single family? But then what is that balance to adopting what we've talked about and what you were just describing with the mix of commercial and different housing types within a 5-block radius that we do have downtown? And it's just how do we take our ideas and balance that and then put it on the ground in real life?
Yeah. So
and
we do
what I'm
talk.
struggling with.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. We do talk in the text and have some graphics that show kind of percentages for that area, right? Generally, it's 60 to 70% single family, and then it kind of tapers down to certain percentages of two-family, multifamily, et cetera. You can take a hardline stance and say, in this area, we expect this, and the percentage of single family has already been met. We're not entertaining anything else. You can do that. Or it is looking at it on a project by project and telling a developer, this is the product we're looking for here. This is, and for some developers, that product's not in their portfolio, right? And yes, a plan commission and a council will have to make difficult decisions in trying to meet their housing goals to serve the whole community, right? And we have said no. I will say, I'll point to the Mangan property. Came in with a plan to take an area that's been planned for single family as a part of their project to make it all multifamily. The neighbors came out and said that is not what their expectation is for this area. Plan Commission gave them some feedback on potentially transitioning might be evaluated. But you've held, I'll say, fast to that requirement or that expectation for development in an area. So providing good, clear direction to a developer is important, and sometimes they're just not the right developer for a parcel. Sadly, there's no silver bullet to it, though. It is about hard decision making. With that, are there any other materials that you would like in advance of whenever we have a meeting scheduled? We've also provided to you, obviously, other red line chapters. So in case you feel so inclined to read ahead, right? We never know how much we're going to get through in a given meeting, but I would certainly encourage you to start reading through, if you have not already, I'm sure you have, the Utilities and Community Facilities chapter, red lines as well. So we can keep kind of progressing forward. These are available, obviously, on the website for all of the public to read, so I don't want to make it just sound like it's the Plan Commission or the council.
The next section would be transportation, is that right?
Transportation.
No, it's community facilities and utilities and community facilities.
Utilities.
Then transportation.
And one of my questions, I guess, is around like CP and any kind of thoughts about that, especially if we could have that conversation before November 8th, I think would be ideal.
Okay.
Dustin, do you have the entire code redlined at this point?
Oh, you mean the entire plan?
Oh, sorry, the entire plan, yeah.
I would say we probably have 85% of it redlined.
Yep, transportation, housing, most of natural resources, agricultural resources, so.
These are the meatiest chapters, right? Land use, utilities and community facilities, transportation, those are the meatiest ones. Housing kind of follows what you decide to do on a land use perspective, and what we're trying to achieve for a housing program for the community, what we're trying to encourage. Economic development, obviously important, but it's a little bit thinner. Agricultural facilities, pretty limited here. Obviously, cultural facilities, so historic issues are in there. But again, you can see the chapters are not as meaty as this. So this is the biggest bite at the apple, if you will.
Yeah, the other chips kind of fall based on a lot of these recommendations. We can sort of start to really implement them in the individual kind of topic-specific chapters. So.
And as you make decisions moving forward, recommendations moving forward, we certainly go back and ensure consistency between other chapters. Because there may be something that you've decided in here that if it tweaks some other chapter, we would bring that to your attention.
All right.
Last thing I would just like to say, remember, formatting really hasn't been finalized here. This is just redlining. Once we get to, I think, a core document that we're happy with, then we go back and format infographics and the like to make it a much more readable document. This is, I'll say, a little dry at this point because, again, it hasn't been spiced up to really attract attention to certain areas, et cetera, that we would normally do.
All right. Everyone, I had spoken about perhaps wrapping this up at 8 o'clock, and we can look forward to getting the information as to when we could have our special meeting, and then we'll do that. So then, for now, we're going to close the discussion on the comprehensive plan. We go to item number 16, recommendation for future agendas. Now, for that, Mr. Holman was not able to be with us. He asked that there be an agenda item on zoning issues. So if that could be added to the October regular meeting, that would be that'd be great. Is there anything else we should know about future agendas?
Was any more specificity offered with that suggestion?
There's not.
Okay.
So it'll be up to him to bring up a topic or however many topics, but then we want to, we'll see how everything else goes.
What I'd like to do is discuss with him and then contact you about agenda setting as the parliamentarian. I think you should have a role in that.
All right, sounds good, sounds good. All right. All right. Anything else concerning future agendas? If not, we are at 17, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Coots will second.
All right, so Dr. Mason, motion, Mr. Coots, second to adjourn. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to that? We're adjourned.